Today we are altering the shoulder length strapping on Lacey's tank tops. I've already done this right shoulder and I'm about to do the left. We have the pins marked here of how much we have to take up this side, and you begin by matching the two pins up and securing that juncture from underneath with a third pin. The critical thing is you don't ever want to lose those two pins that are your marking places. So you bring a pin up from the bottom and insert it there where the first pin is marked. Bring it over, it's quite a bit, so you have to work your fingers, and push it through to where the second mark is. Don't remove those pins yet until this new pin is secure. And you have to line up the straps so they're a little bit straight. You make adjustments as you go along, and the main thing is to get this pin secure. It's not going to remain there because we're going to fold all this in. Now you can remove the two bottom pins once you're confident that this pin is secure. We are bringing the excess fabric to the front of the shirt because it lays better on the body than if you bring it to the back. It might pull on her and not lay as nicely. So now you want to pin this, the fold, all this under. We are not cutting it off because we do not have a serge machine, and it will unravel if we tried to remove it and make a true proper seam. Also, it is not really at the shoulder anymore. They were just so terribly long. So you just take your fingers, kind of work the fabric, allow it to fall into place naturally, trying not to pull anything. And you need just 4 pins to hold it in place. So you want to pin it down here by the bottom fold, securing the bottom fold. And on the other side, also once again, securing that bottom fold, trying to keep it straight so it won't roll up as you're stitching. So both pins are in place. Come and secure the top fold. Obviously it's easier to ensure that this fold remains in place because you can see it. And 1 pin over here. Now you can go under and remove that pin that secured your fold in the first place. You're now ready to stitch. You make sure that you did not put your pins in too tightly so that nothing is puckering or creasing or not wanting to lay properly, because you will be stitching all this down, and you will not simply be stitching up the middle. In fact, we didn't stitch up the middle at all. We made a rectangle of stitching, and it actually comes out looking rather nicely, and it's not all that noticeable, as you can see here on the finished side. And she says they're comfortable on, and we'll show you the 2 we did previously. This was very simple to do. This cute turquoise and navy blue one was very simple to do. You can see this finished project, and then this orange one was the first one we did today. This was a little bit more of a challenge in that it was a little off. We had to kind of square things up. She did try this on, and as you can see, it's really not that noticeable the way we've elected to adjust the straps. And we also had to take it in a little bit on the side, and again, we don't have the proper machine or stitching to stitch on a knit, so I very carefully took a small seam along the side here, and then I secured it to the back where it really just wanted to fall naturally, not pulling the seam up even with the lace, but letting it fall so that when it was on her body, it was stretched properly to the contours of the human body. So she said it's very comfortable, and fits her better now. Well, that was the goal. So we achieved the goal with, so now I'll stitch this one and she'll have all 3 done for today. This morning we are fitting the last 2 tank tops for Alyssa, and once again the process begins with pinning the shoulder strap, and the idea is to get it up comfortable to the armpit, and we do not need to take it in the side seams on this tank top, but we did need to bring it up because it was just too plunging of a neckline for a tank top, and that's really uncomfortable. After the garment is removed, I will stitch across this seam and once again do what I did to the others and probably just fold the fabric in because it is t-shirt material. But this one I will press interfacing on the wrong side. This is a different stretch knit up here at the shoulder seam, and the ones with the lace, I don't have that problem. This really is the only shirt that there is a problem with the stretch fabric, and a straight stitch just won't do it. It will pucker and not look good. So this will take a little more creative thinking here on my part to fix it.
And just to confirm, the reason that we have to do this is because all my tank tops didn't take the consideration in that I actually wear a bra, so they all kind of showed the bra cup, and I really didn't like that at all, so that's why we're doing all of my tank tops today and yesterday.
This morning we are attempting to alter the straps on this tank top. This tank top is more difficult to do because unlike the other ones we've shown you, there's no lace around the straps, so it's all stretchy, very stretchy weave to the ribbed shirt and even the binding around the armhole and neckline. So because we don't have any way to do a serge stitch or a zigzag stitch on knit fabric, my idea was to have interfacing pressed onto where I have to make the seams. So I have cut narrow strips of interfacing and I'm going to iron them on now beyond where I have to stitch. This one seems to be just a bit too narrow. Where I have to stitch, which should hold the knit in place. And then I will not have any excess beyond that, but interfacing does come off in time, so I want it just a bit beyond where I'm going to stitch, and I'll just do a stitching line across it to hold the very edge of the edges of the lengths of the interfacing in place. We won't do that along the armhole or neckline because that would ruin the look and prevent the armhole and neckline from stretching properly, and the stitches would simply pop out. So following the directions on this handy package of fusible interfacing we were able to purchase at the fabric store, on the back of the box it instructs you as to how to do it. So I have this little dampened actually piece of a man's handkerchief, as you have to apply it with a damp cloth. My iron is set to, was set to synthetics because it says to use a cool iron and not an extremely hot iron. This will cool down, and as I said, this is my experiment, so we're going to hope for the best. You have to be very careful even in pressing this interfacing on to this fabric to make sure that you don't move the iron and stretch the knit fabric. So just put the iron on top of the interfacing, count to 10 seconds, or talk your way through 10 seconds. Pick the iron straight up, and then finish pressing it on where you didn't get to cover it the first time. You want to make sure, now that it's on, you can kind of press along. Pick it up, pick the pressing cloth carefully up off of it, checking it. Make sure you put the interfacing on the right way. You want to make sure the side that is the bondable side is of course against your fabric, which we've done here. And as you can see, it holds this stretchy fabric in place, so I will now be able to seam across where I've put my basting lines. We'll show you our finished product. Now we did finish this inside completely. I ran stitching lines up here and here and here and here to secure the edges of the interfacing. So now we're ready to put the strap for stitching under the pressure foot and the feed dogs, being very careful that you don't snag the lace on the feed dogs. Check and make sure underneath that when you begin to that you insert the needle through this top fold and not too near the edge, because you can always come back, but you want to catch everything and not snag anything. Hold your two threads securely, the top and the bobbin, and slowly begin to stitch, mindful that there are pins in here. Stitch as straight line as you can to the bottom. You might want to stop here, remove that top pin, we don't need it anymore. Now as you approach the bottom, you want to peek underneath there and you want to make sure that you catch that bottom fold. So you just want to take it a stitch or so at a time. And I think I'll do one more in this case. And then I'll back stitch one stitch, and I'm going to do it just by hand because I just want one back stitch. And then we can remove this pin because it will be in our way. Turn the fabric and stitch across now. Very mindful that you want to feel underneath where this bottom fold is to make sure that you catch that. Of course you can't see it, so you just have to feel it and stitch as straightly as you can. I'm going to remove this pin also. I really don't need it. My fingers can feel and guide the fabric, so I'm ready to stitch. It's more important to be slightly above the fold, you can always do it again, than it is to miss it. You don't want to miss it. Okay, we're ready to turn the angle. Turn again and go straight up in our little rectangle of stitches here. There again, we're not going to come to the absolute edge of the lace. We're going to stay inside. That will all lay down just fine. Actually, the lace on the straps makes it a lot easier for us to use this straight stitch, because if it was knit all the way, it would be far more difficult. So you want to catch that top edge. I'm going to go one beyond it and one stitch back. Two stitches back to, okay, and then remove this pin, turn the fabric again. We're going to stitch right along this top fold now, and so that would be that's the last of the 4 stitches of the box, and the rectangle of stitches that we've made, and we'll come a little bit back down there too for safety. And we're there, right where we started. We'll come right back down on the same row of stitches so we don't have any extra stitches to show, and that's enough. We're properly secured now all the way around. Our repair, our adjustment, the alterations for this shirt are complete. And there you have the little finished product that we just finished, and it matches the other side. And once the threads are tied and remove the stitch cut off, she'll have this tank top all finished and ready to go also. This one's very cute, bright colors.